6 p.m. Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. The first floor conference room, City Hall, 444 West Grand Avenue, Wisconsin Rapids. We're starting late tonight. It was originally scheduled for 6 o'clock, and we're starting at 6:54 p.m. Because of a late finance committee meeting. I'll introduce myself. I'm Thad Kubishak. I'm the chairperson of this committee.
Tom Riome, member of the committee.
Joe Engsted, city engineer.
Joe Cherry, Director of Public Works.
Vern Virginski, second ward.
We'll start here and go around.
Shane Blazer, alternate.
I'm Elizabeth Whalen. I guess Bird City Clean Green Action citizen.
Penny Van Tassel.
Richard Green.
I'm Helen Laguerre, Master Gardener volunteer.
Scott Kelly, the alder person.
Jim Geniak.
Carol Davis.
Joe Ansel.
Mary Dow.
Wonderful. With that, we will go to item number 2, review and consider referral by Alderperson Kellogg to add a yellow dash median stripe on Chestnut Street from Hill Street to Lincoln Street in front of Assumption High School. And I'll give you the floor, Mr. Kellogg.
Well, the council approved relining the intersection of 8th Street and Chestnut because it's hard to make a right turn. And with that realignment, individuals in my district raised the question, when Assumption has an event, usually there's parking on both sides of Chestnut, and sometimes people will cross mid-block and so forth. And when you have cars on both sides, it narrows that center part, and some people are going through quickly. And some of the residents asked if there's a yellow dash line that could be down the mediums between Hill Street and Lincoln to separate it. And also we talked about, I'm thinking of, with our last meeting with regard to the rafters and with regard to the aquatic center, even in the summertime, if you have the aquatic center plus you have a rafters game, people park down those streets. And that's going to even continue to be a problem even in the summer, let alone during the school year with the basketball events and things like that. So I thought it was a reasonable request. If we're going to do Chestnut between Lincoln and A Street, why not continue from Lincoln to A Street? Why not continue from Lincoln down to Hill Street with that dash line? So I brought it as on consideration for safety that I think would be important. So,
Committee members, do you have any questions, concerns with it?
No, there's going to be dash lines between 8th and Lincoln?
there's going to be a realignment of the intersection at Chestnut and 8th Street. So I don't know, just thinking of the traffic at the Aquatic Center, I think we have to anticipate. I don't know what plans specifically we have between Lincoln and 8th Street except for that intersection. But I'd like to suggest continue it down Chestnut down to Hill Street, which is only 2 blocks. But if people get out of their cars and cross the middle of the block going to basketball games and stuff like that, it seems to me, why not try to slow down that traffic by having that yellow dash line? It narrows it's a visual thing, and you just go slower because of that.
Mr. Eagle? I don't have a problem with it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's no brainer.
I don't necessarily really have a problem with it. It's another thing that if the people are traveling too fast, which they shouldn't be, but it's also that all the burden shouldn't be put upon the motoring public, that it should be those people coming and going from the school. I went to school there. In fact, this spring is my 50th anniversary reunion coming up, so there were 4 times as many kids in high school then as what there is now. fact, my class, I think, was the largest class ever. It's still, that is. And that's 4 times what the population of the school is now, probably my class was. So I don't have a problem with the, the theory of doing it, but it's also that it's not just totally the motoring people driving by that somehow to make those people coming and going out of the building be more aware of, because they do cross that street. That's been done for decades. Across from the school, straight out from the front door, used to be a giant parking lot years ago. Actually, more people attended events then than they do now. I just had to throw that in from past experience.
Absolutely.
From being there.
You bet.
That where that office building is was all part of a parking lot, unpaved. Whoever, I mean, the basketball gym used to be packed with people years ago. The next street over was always lined with cars, so people were crossing back and forth. And so I just raised that because of the pedestrians are also accountable for themselves. It's not just me driving by to watch out, and I know that the street narrows down. So I don't have a problem with it, but what we're doing with the rest of the street, I don't know if that all how far we're talking in. Do you have in there from?
Lincoln Hill Street, so Hill Street.
Oh, okay, all the way down, the whole street, so, okay. So, I don't have a problem with that, but then, which is not on the agenda, but what's gonna happen, or if it should be looked at in the future from the other way to 8th Street from Lincoln, so. But that's a wider street there too.
Right.
But I guess, one thing throw in, would it do any good to, because I don't think there is, a crosswalk across from the front door of Assumption? It's mid-block there. Would that do any good or not?
We could certainly take a look at it.
That's up to you guys.
Yeah, we'd have to,
I mean,
we'd have to study a little bit.
Come up with something.
We generally don't like to do mid-block crosswalks,
Yeah.
but we could certainly take a close look at it.
That could be your referral for next month.
Okay. And understand in mid-block, that,
Yep.
that it's not the regular thing to do. Okay.
I guess with that being said, I'll just throw out a motion on the floor. I'll make a motion to approve the yellow dash median stripe on Chestnut Street from Hill Street to Lincoln Street in front of Assumption High School.
Second.
Motion by Kubaschak, second by Brzezinski to approve the yellow dash stripe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Discussion. I'm sorry.
What I meant to start with even was, does staff have any
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
recommendation?
Is this an
Yeah.
issue? Is this a concern? The cost is marginal because we do it in-house. So, and it's given work to our guys. So, I mean, I don't think that that's an issue one way or the other, but go on. But I'll give the floor to the staff first and then I'll call you, Shane.
Do you have a traffic comment?
I guess the only thing that I would say is that, if it's meant to be safer, and if the pedestrians are present when the street's already narrowed with parked cars, that narrowing the street at that time with parked cars, seeing pedestrians crossing, should have a natural calming effect as it is. There might be some slight reduction by putting either edge lines or center line in for other times of the day. But to quantify it, it'd probably be good to do a speed study and see what sort of speeds vehicles are traveling at on the corridor. Maybe they're not speeding, or maybe they're going 40 miles an hour. That's about it.
My question is just for one of the Joes, would it typically be a white dash or yellow or?
Well, so, yeah, so it would be yellow. It's not you wouldn't have a passing zone there. It wouldn't qualify for distance between the intersections for a passing zone. And, you know, one of the challenges with a stripe on a narrow street where there's parking on both sides is that oftentimes you can't stay on your side of the lane. And we normally don't stripe a lot of 25-mile-an-hour areas. You know, there's not a significant cost there. I'd hate to just do it though, because a lot of people could ask for, you know, a street next to a school where there's, you know, to be striped, and you know, if there's not a traffic safety issue or you know, or some substantial improvement, it is still paint that we have to purchase, and it's still staff time to do it. I certainly don't have a problem with it, but again, without justification, I'm not sure that it's the greatest idea. That's all.
Mr. Kellogg, you got any?
I mean, if it's a nominal amount of cost for the paint, and you could save someone from getting hurt, and if we're going to increase the amount of parking there because of the Raptors and the Aquatic Center, it seems to me it's worth it. It's not your typical street per se. I mean, the logistics and where that's located, I think it merits putting it in. And like I say, and pedestrians have a responsibility, I realize that. But when you talk about young kids running across the street, or families going to a basketball game, or running across to get to the Raptors game, yes, pedestrians have a responsibility, but can we do anything to maybe prevent an accident? And I say if it's a nominal amount of cost, and I would say put it in, but that's where I'm coming from. I wouldn't want somebody hurt.
Well, I concur with that, because that was when we took up the issue about making a one-way into a two-way in another school location that isn't a school anymore, was the safety, and safety is paramount. So, I mean, the paint is not free, but I don't have a problem trying it. If it doesn't work, we can scrape off the paint and go back to old way.
Well, and we can't necessarily just do a dash. I mean, we have to install it in accordance with MUTCD standards, right? So, I mean, most of it will be a no passing.
So please clarify that, because that's obviously something that is not on here or we're talking about.
So there's a manual and uniform traffic control devices, and there's standards for you know, a dashed passing zone where you can cross the center line legally, and you have to have room to be able to pass. And so there's distance requirements, distances from intersections, things like that you have to comply with. And my concern, without studying it at this point, is that a lot of that area we may not be able to just dash. We may have to double stripe that. And if that's the case, and there's cars parked on both sides, you're not supposed to cross the center line because it's a double yellow. So, you know, I think this is a fine motion. As long as we can comply with MUTCD. And again, I haven't studied the merits on that. And in a low speed area, maybe those distances are very short, and it's not an issue.
And so either way, at intersections, as you approach the intersection, there'd be a certain distance that you'd have double yellow for sure, and then probably going up the hill towards Lincoln Street, that would probably be a double yellow too, at a minimum.
Maybe you have to study, come back to the committee.
So maybe if I retract my motion and the committee agrees that we postpone this until further study is conducted, is that sufficient for you, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I just think it merits to look into it.
Absolutely.
And if we can't, we can't, but I think it merits to look at the study and come back to the committee, and if it's a no, no, but if it's a yes, I think it merits it.
No, and I would agree to postpone it, for a month, 2 months, whatever, because we can't paint it anyway.
Okay.
Then how about,
Now, we can't, it's gonna be 3 months probably before we could paint anything.
correct, so what I'll do is, I'll rescind my motion, you rescind your second, and we gotta be unanimous vote for that in terms of Robert's Rules of Order. So, do you have a problem, does anybody have a problem with rescinding the motion and the second? Good, so then, I will make the motion to postpone this, to a reasonable amount of time. 2 months, 3 months, how, obviously you're busy, but what kind of a time frame? Because I don't just want to put this on a table type of a thing, I want to postpone it to a later date.
We could look at this pretty quick, right?
Yeah, I'd still recommend doing the speed study though, and then that doesn't take much time, it's just we gotta set it up, count for a week or two to capture enough events and time, and then to sit down and go through the center line, through the manual and delineate where we should have double yellow, where dash should be, and so,
And
yeah,
we have our
within
own-
2 months.
So we have our own machines that you put the thing across there, what is it, the tripper that you drive across?
Yeah, we've got our own counter.
Okay. 2 months reasonable?
Sure.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to postpone this to the April Public Works Committee meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Rayom, second. Motion on the floor to postpone this 2 months. Second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 3-0. We'll go on to item number 3, review and consider a proposal of Monarch encouragement to landscape portions of the sloped green space along the south side of the Riverview Expressway between Lincoln Street and First Street South. Ms. Penny Van Tassel, you had contacted me, we had talked in the past, you had spoken in front of the committee, and you've got a proposal
Yes, I
for
do.
us. And I'll give you the floor for 5 minutes or so to keep proper order. And I will suggest that anybody with you, unless it's pertinent, I would assume that they're going to say the same things. So
I would assume. Let me hand that down to you guys. Okay. I will try to make this short as I can. Monarch Encouragement is members of Clean Green Action, focusing on education and improving habitat and areas available to monarch butterflies. And we have as our goal to provide safe food and shelter, protecting milkweed in suitable areas and planting more of it are part of our action plan. Now we'll talk about a few myth busters. Some things we are not in favor of. We're not in favor of letting everything go wild. We're not in favor of seeing large areas and boulevards look weedy. We're not against mowing if it has to be done. We are in favor of creating new habitat for birds and monarch butterflies. We're in favor of selecting where to mow and planning when to mow. Timing mowing operations has a great impact on butterflies and ground nesting bird populations. So first of all, take a look at the white Google map of the expressway hillside. That's the whole acreage. And my measurements say it's about a mile around it, around this whole gray little thing. It's about a mile. It's approximately 8 acres or so. It might be between 6 to 8, I don't really know, but mine says 8. It has some trees, but not as many now as it did before last summer's bad windstorm. In the past, it's been totally kept mowed and is not really used for any purpose except parcel of ground that is just costing money to be mowed, and it isn't even pretty. This parcel is a main corridor for migrating monarch butterflies going along the river. It has great potential value as a natural themed area. It would be great to have more places made specifically for buckbirds and monarch butterflies. The third point I have is our garden is approximately 100 feet by 100 feet. So it's a little blurb on the map of that 8 acres. It's planted with native flowers and grasses. We have no noxious weeds growing in it. Noxious weeds are poisonous, harmful plants that will hurt people or animals. We have none of those. We have tall flowers that could look like weeds if you're not familiar. It's a natural, wild-looking area, not made to grow in any particular fashion, and it probably should have been mowed or burned last year in the spring, but it was not. Under the City International Property Maintenance Code, our garden is considered a natural planting and is a recognized type of landscaping. Issues of concern about the hillside appearance were voiced last summer, and that was the second year no mowing was done to the slope on the hill. We have learned that management might have to be done yearly in order to keep a native garden in the best looking condition. Our plans for 2020 include delineating the garden from the surrounding area to make it look a little more kept up and less wild, and possibly planting evergreens and shrubs between the expressway and the garden. If we get city approval, maybe we would want to do that, and that would shield it from the motorists who feel that the area is unsightly. We do remove invasive plants as best we can, but those are different than noxious weeds. But we have a better idea, a big picture of the whole acreage, and that would be to have a plan of the whole 8 acres, so the garden would be a part of a flowing landscape, a plan of the whole parcel. The big picture would be to create a natural area park that would be beautiful, enjoyable for citizens, a place of refuge and procreation for birds and monarchs, and a collaboration of ideas from those who want to create an effort of lasting value to the environment and the city. So the first idea was not this sketch here, which you guys, these are my hand-drawn sketches. But the first one would be to make the whole 8 areas a meadow, which would include grasses and flowers, but make it less tall, closer to the highway, so that maybe a landscaper could come up with some way to do that, but change the height of the plants so they were shorter near the highway and gradually getting taller, and make the whole thing a meadow. That way it could be mowed. Treat the slope as its own separate area, where just the slope could possibly be burned, because that's hard, that's not easy to mow, and if it needed mowing, or it could be burned because it's smaller, and the fire department could help with that, plus volunteer citizens. It's just an idea. And then the third idea is the more elaborate sketches that I've got, and I divided this into 9 areas, thinking bite off a little bit at a time, or come up with a plan and work a little of the plan as we get money, or as we get the ideas worked out. So the third section on this map is our Butterfly Hill Garden, which is this sketch here. And all the triangles are short evergreens. H stands for hazelnuts, E is elderberry, D is dogwood, and B is bur oaks. There's eco-friendly lawn near the expressway, eco-friendly lawn along Daly. There's a hedge shielding the garden from the expressway. And this is just an idea of what could be done. On this page, I've got butterfly gardens. From the air, it looks like a butterfly. Just throwing it out there. So that takes us to the 7th point, which is just my sketch. There's pathways, could be done in stages. And then 8, I call this a win-win, where we get people who are all involved with this, who have thoughts and opinions, to work together and possibly meet at the library and have a couple open houses with, you know, just what kind of things do you have in mind, what do you not have in mind, what parts do you like, what parts don't you like. It doesn't have to be my idea or our group's idea. It should be our community's idea. But we're very interested in caring for the environment, landscaping that sequesters carbon, helps with water infiltration problems, and building relationships in the process. The money, there are places we could look for money, but we don't need to think about that until we actually agree on some kind of a plan. And then number 10 was Partners in Grime, where there's other communities that have volunteer citizens who they create a way for volunteers to get involved. And Minneapolis, for example, has all their sites listed on their website, and people volunteer for 1 week or 1 year. They've got programs to help with keeping their trees watered. They give them beer or coffee in exchange for watering the trees. I'm saying we should give out some cheese because we're Wisconsin Rapids. So we're not about planting weeds. We're about taking care of our environment. And so that's all.
Do you
Wonderful.
have an extra copy?
Here, you can have this. Wonderful, thank you very much for offering that. I think what I'll do is I'll talk about some potential concerns of playing the devil's advocate. I love it, the preliminary design on this, but what this has stemmed from, unfortunately, is the fact that I'm disappointed that we weren't able to mow this. But I'll tell you what, if an organization, I'm not going to turn anybody away. If someone wants to turn something into something really cool, you know, and I think that that's one thing that we haven't done in the city is promote entrepreneurialism or promote not necessarily on the business side, but just creativity. Sometimes green space is underutilized. And if we can do something with that, that looks cool. You know, and I'm sure, but we're still in infancy stages of this. And again, one of the concerns would be 3 years from now. What happens if the group disbands? Now, the likelihood is probably low, but now is the city going to have to come in with equipment and remove stuff and then put back to grass? So that's a concern that could be addressed in a follow-up proposal with this. Also, and I'm not concerned about money. I don't think that you need to show that you're going to have a tremendous amount of fundraising, because the fundraising isn't what I'm concerned about. It's the man hours, it's the volunteer, it's the continually making this so that it does look nice and getting rid of not necessarily the noxious weeds, but the other weeds that come in, that naturally come in. But I like this first step. But I think what, moving forward or taking it out of committee, and I I don't want to speak for the committee members, I'll let them speak, but it's a case where getting those hard figures, what each tree would cost, what each planting would cost, how many hours go involved, that would be what we would necessarily need, to really bring it to council. Does that make sense? But this is a great step. I mean,
I think first you want to decide, do you want a meadow that you can mow it and possibly burn some of it, so it's basically pathways through flowers and grasses.
But I like your section there where the butterfly would be section 3 and then section 2 and section 1 going to First Street right there, biting off, not more. Now, we're gonna, as a city, we're gonna have to address 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because we're not gonna leave that as whatever it is. That's gotta change, it's gotta go back to what it was or whatever else. But from Butterfly Hill west toward First Street, absolutely, whatever creativity you can find for that. But yeah, as far as the committee members go, what do you guys think? Because this is one thing that there's other participants and concerns and everything else, but.
Well, this is a big undertaking, and I would rather see them bite off a smaller portion and do a good job and make it eye-pleasing to the public, rather than try to do everything at once and not do such a good job. And I would like to see it on a yearly basis, because sometimes things go around. And if a good job is done, it looks nice, it's pleasing to the eye, it does what we would like to see it accomplish, fine. But we'll go another year, another 2 years. But I would like to see a little bit smaller area and a good job done.
Do you?
And no noxious weeds, and I've been assured that there's not going to be any.
Are you guys under the impression that Monarch Encouragement is going to do all the labor for it? Because that's not our intention. We're talking about getting community members involved in planning it or giving ideas and going from there.
Yeah, however, we're not going to do it as a city.
Okay.
There's not going to be, at least from what we've been talking about, it isn't going to be street department people or Parks and Rec department payroll doing that. It would be all,
So are you saying we should start by having a couple meetings and saying the city gave us, said go ahead, start gathering ideas?
Yeah, if you want to partner with other organizations, absolutely. If you can, regardless of the organization. But that's, again, and that kind of comes back to the undertaking of this, is that I'm not opposed to volunteering for beer anytime, but I'm stretched out myself on all the different endeavors that I'm at, so I don't know how much I would be able to do it, versus everybody else, so.
Yeah, and I don't think they should count on a lot of help from the city, because we just don't have a lot of help to offer.
We got to maintain roads and everything else, and
Yeah.
other places that.
What's the plan for it if we don't do anything? I mean, that's, I think, partly the issue, right? Is that you aren't able to mow it, and it was going to just get overgrown if it's not mown. And we were asked to provide kind of a vision for what it could be, but I don't think, 7 acres, I mean, even the Fireman's Memorial, I don't know who maintains that, that's Park and Rec, or is that
Firefighters.
the firefighters maintain that? I don't think that that's something that we were expecting, that you would hand over to us, that whole area as a citizen project without city involvement.
Well, no, I guess to answer your question, the question is, if you guys didn't do anything with this, then as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna pursue through the committee to mow that hill, to make it what it was before. So regardless, if we don't have an employee that can do it, there's subcontractors that can do that work. So I mean, we could hire someone, even if we gotta hire someone at a point to do it, so. But the current state of it right now is absolutely no. Either it gets completely improved from what your guys' action would be, or it reverts back to green grass.
Yeah, and Penny, just, because you were talking about maybe, and I've been outspoken about, your 100 by 100 foot area isn't, I think, just the problem. It's the other 7.8 acres left there that is unmowed grass is my issue. Now, if the whole hill was prairie, I wouldn't have any issue with that. I wouldn't call it mowing there. But if it looks like my lawn that I haven't mowed for the year, that's where I have my issue. But your section of your garden isn't the problem. It's the rest of the area. That's been my concern.
Yeah, realistically, that map, and I gave my stuff to Jim, but that section 1 and 2 that you hand drew, I like that. That looks pretty cool. If you could create something like that in the section 1 and 2, Butterfly Hills up on 3, that'd be really cool. You know, but it's got to be something. It just can't be what it is now, because again, what it is now is an issue.
If I may interject, I think what I'm hearing is that the area would need to be contained, maintained, signed. I think that's really important, especially in placemaking projects around the city, beautification projects, and also education, because as I drive by it as a master gardener, I may look at it as like, oh, prairie grass, I get it right away. Other people that drive by it may say, that's an eyesore. So what I'm hearing is that people want this beautification, this placemaking of binding people, plants and places together. This is what Rapids really needs. And but I'm hearing that there's a little disconnect in maybe maintaining it, containing it, knowing what to mow and what not to mow. Maybe it didn't get mowed because you didn't want to mow over it, you know, who knows? But containing it, maintaining it, and educating people through signage, what's going on, so people can get on board and people can get involved, because as you said, starting off small is great, because the volunteer hours that go into the Rapids, as far as master gardeners, as far as any of these projects, we have a lot of hours we put in and we're pretty stretched. And so I think to get more people on board from the public is a must. So I think this gentleman here has a valid point about starting something small, see how it goes, see who is going to show up for the next year or two to maintain that, because people's lives do change, people's interests change, life gets in the way, and it is volunteer hours that is going to be doing this. And as far as, you know, I do a lot of master gardener hours, volunteer hours myself, and I can see how people can get stretched thin on these things. And so I think the critical thing, like this gentleman said here too, is that if he looks at it and it looks like his lawn hasn't been mowed for a year, and that's what he's looking at, how many other people look at it like that too? So I really believe that if we move forward with this as a placemaking project for the Rapids, which is a wonderful idea to be a part of that, you know, highway, Monarch Highway that stretches from or the whole of I-35 right into Texas, which is amazing, to become a part of that and to encourage pollinators and to educate people. I really think that it does have to be really maintained. It can't just go wild. Prairie is kind of wild though, too. I mean, how much maintenance how much restriction can you give a prairie? Well, we can certainly make sure there's not noxious weeds that are growing in there. We can make sure there's not invasive species, which we do around town anyway. We remove those things all the time. We're looking for them. As master gardeners, we see what's invasive and we will point it out. You know, that's a little bit different than noxious weeds though. But also remember, you know, the Rapids is known as the bird city too. So these grasses and this natural habitat that I think what you want to create is attracting some of those birds. And, you know, we're one of the top nation's hotspots for birding here in the Rapids. You know, this is one place our birders come to see 200 out of the 437 species that are found in Wisconsin alone. So it's these prairie grasses help that too. But I am definitely with you about it can't be get out of control. And the big issue is volunteer hours. It always is, because you can't police volunteers. So education, you know, maintaining signage, getting more people interested and involved. And so we have a commonality in our community about what we are. What is the Rapids? What do we represent? What cultural, historical values do we hold? You know, not just agriculture, not just the mill, we prairie too. You know, this is what we are. So as beautification projects go forward, definitely start off on a smaller scale, definitely maintain it, definitely see how many hours are available for people to put in it, maintain that, because I do see what you're saying. That can be a real issue down the road. And people don't want to drive by and see encroaching on other things we're doing in the city too. But I think it's really important that it's included.
Thank you. Jim?
Couple of things. The committee has already gone on record to recommend a new mower and 2 new people that was supposed to be sent to the finance committee. I don't know when that referral is going to come up or if it's been actually turned in. A lot of this discussion could be more knowledgeable if the referral would have been filled out like what the engineering department turns in with each of their referrals.
Well, it was a referral by me. I'm the committee chairperson, and I can put whatever I want on the agenda.
I don't
okay?
disagree with that. I'm just saying this discussion, this handout would have been much nicer if we all would have had it in advance. And that would have been done by a page like this. That's all that I'm saying there. So I wasn't trying, you know, to rub your knickers or anything. I agree that some species of milkweed are invasive. Is that right?
Yeah.
It is on the internet with Google. There's only one way to get rid of milkweed. Not all milkweed, because there's hundreds of kinds of milkweed. Some are very beautiful. But the only way to get rid of the ones that are around here, they have to be pulled out of the ground. If you mow over them, they just grow more. The slope of that project is at about 30 degrees. Is that right, Joe?
A little less than that, but.
A little less than that. It's too dangerous for the elderly, kids, and other people to try to walk down and then traverse where the plantings are. It's not safe. It's going to lead to lawsuits.
I don't have any pathways on the slope though.
Trying to get down, that's what one of the problems
Hang on,
is.
this is not a debate, all right?
Oh,
This
no,
is
no.
not a public hearing.
Oh, I'm
We're not
sorry.
gonna go back and forth, all right?
Well, debris blows into the plantings. It can't be mowed or fired. It's against the law. I don't know how the hill got named like it was. It never went through council. And council did not approve the use of the city's name for grant applications. City council did not approve this project in the first place. It never went through council. This is Wisconsin Rapids, and people who live in Wisconsin Rapids should have a majority say on what goes on in Wisconsin Rapids, not people in Portage County or wherever. With the speed of the drivers on the expressway and the curve that's there, people in vehicles are not going to be able to give this project due viewing. It's just kind of impossible to take in all of what that you're trying to say with it. I did get a lot of comments from an email that I sent out. I had 2 that were positive, the rest were negative. But I have had people, and I've gone around myself, the corner of Pepper and First Avenue is where the old Humane Society used to be. There is a walkway or a trail that goes around there on the outside of the fence. People would have a place to park. Kids, parents, grandparents could get out and walk it. It would not be, I don't want to say eyesore, it would not be something that should be put on that pristine slope the way it was. There's also the lake out by the zoo. All around that could be done in this project.
Jim, you're addressing the committee, you're not looking at
Oh,
other
I'm
audience
sorry,
members.
I'm sorry. I'll have more things to say at a future time with the petition.
Thank you. And so moving on, what does the committee think about this? As far as I'm concerned, I'll do my brief. I think we've got a great start to a proposal. I think we need more information. I think we need buy-in, we need commitment. But as far as I'm concerned, we can't be talking against anything specific because there isn't anything specific that is actually proposed with it, aside from looking at what the existing Butterfly Hill is. So getting those specifics, almost kind of like a business proposal for the committee, I think is important for us to move forward. But again, I think that this is a great start. Committee members, you guys have the floor.
What now?
You have the floor.
Well, I think to more formalize what your outlook would be, how it is to be kept up over years, the expectation is, expectation, city involvement, no city involvement, that type of stuff, to come forward with some type of plan. It's been on our radar of what to do with it, how to take care of it. We don't have the equipment to mow. So what would be, I guess what I just said, but also what Jim mentioned, an alternative site to look at. Is there something? And I think for me, it'd be to come back with more of a formal planning, to upkeep, who takes care of and all of that. Because, to me, if something was, to go in and be great and wonderful and for 5 years or whatever, that, what happens after that? Are we back here again to talk about it? So, yeah, so I guess for me, that'd be just, I like the discussion, like the comments, interesting thoughts that you put into it, and I think maybe more of a formalized plan to bring to the committee would be good. And I think with that, to actually, to do something like that is, again, into conjunction, I guess, to contact staff to see what could be or can't be, for some advice.
So real briefly, I met with Penny here a few weeks ago, and she went through this proposal, and I think it has a lot of potential. I do think it needs some refining. I think there's some possibilities based on some of the layouts that were proposed that could be used to develop some screening for some areas. Other areas where it makes sense to be meadow-like, where there is going to be some maintenance, but it's reduced maintenance. And I think there's a lot of potential here, and it is a fairly good size area. We've talked about that, and I think a balance of trying to manage, mow what we can mow, manage what we can't with, potentially some prairie areas, and then define some specialty areas where, where it does require some volunteer efforts, and limit that so that those volunteer efforts are reasonable. I think in the long run, we can develop something pretty neat here and make it a real benefit to the community. It's just a little bit of refinement. I don't think we're too far off.
You got anything, but?
Yeah. I think it's one thing to sit in here and talk about it. I think before it's finalized, we should have a meeting right out on the grounds so they can explain what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, what we like, what we don't like, what we have to change, what we don't have to change, and then move on from there.
Jim?
If they want some of my assistance or comments to help them work out a plan, I would be willing to work with them.
I think Penny's phone number's in the phone book, right? Yeah, so that we will.
And I am in Portage County,
Oh, you
but
are?
I grew up in Rapids.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
You didn't?
No.
I thought you were picking on me.
No. Don't be guilty.
They're gonna have a better chance of getting volunteers too if they start off small, do a real good job.
Oh, I'm excited with, like what Mr. Terry said, is that there's potential here. It needs to be refined. And I don't want to cut you off, Tom.
No.
But I will make a motion to postpone this to next month's meeting, and I would ask to get a more refined proposal, kind of the stuff that we address in terms of what are some contingencies, where would monies come from, are there opportunities, and there are, without speaking out of turn, but there are, the city has got an opportunity for urban forestry grants for trees and different things for matching funds, and if we've gotten an allotment, I don't know if we do, that's for another discussion, but if we can create something cool, I'm in favor of creating anything cool, but what we got on the hill, aside from Butterfly Hill, what we got on the hill is not cool. So, but if you guys can create something, and that's what I want you to do is bring that, and I can I can be in touch with you too before
Yeah.
then, so.
We need more time than just a month.
Yeah. How about?
That's fine. The reason why I say just to next month is because we can always kick it back another month.
Yeah.
You
Maybe
know,
we should,
so.
we'll talk about it tomorrow, what our kind of layout will be, and we'll let you know. But, we'll get on it.
Good, good.
Mr.
And-
Troopers. Just a suggestion, you know, if there was a desire to alter that motion to put it on the referral list.
That's what I was just thinking, yep. So I didn't make the motion, didn't hit the floor. I'm gonna make the motion to add this item to the referral list, and I can place it off, or take it off the referral list at any time, or we can postpone it, so we're not actually having it as an agenda item if you guys aren't ready yet, so motion on the floor.
Second.
Second by Riom, to add this item to the referral list. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it 3-0. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Item number 4, review and consider approval of an installation of a street light on Parkwood Drive. Mr. Blazer.
I'm thinking Joe could probably better speak to it. I had a request, and I live in that area also, and I see, well, actually, my own daughter spends a lot of time at the dance studio on Park, and the volume of traffic, children that their parents drop off, pick up on the roadway. It's very dark in there after hours. So I had requested the city engineer to take a look at it, and then he provided a letter which is in your packet, and his recommendations, which you could probably speak to.
I read through it, but I don't remember it. Can you have a quick narrative of it?
Yep. So, according to the policy that we have for streetlights, went through, did a review of the location and against all the guidance manuals, and make sure that it was going to provide a benefit to the traveling public and the users of the street. The report's in there. The recommendation is that it does, that it would provide a benefit. There's currently no lights in that cul-de-sac area. There is pedestrian traffic and vehicle traffic in the evenings after normal working hours. So it is something that's recommended to be done at some point. I did provide some cost information from Water and Light. Their cost to the city, they'd have to install the wire from current transformer or meter box, but it'd be $1,700 and $1,722, and then there'd be ongoing user fees back to the city. So $30 a month for an aluminum pole with LED fixture, or $15 a month for a wood pole. So those are costs that would be direct to the city. Water and Light would maintain the pole ongoing for perpetuity after that. There isn't anything particularly lined item now in the budget, at least not in the engineering budget. It's not to say that there isn't funds available to do that, but nothing that's specified.
So every pole and every street light, we get charged a monthly fee. Wow, okay. That's a lot of poles and a lot of lights.
It's that concept of being a utility, a business type activity, so.
We have to pay for the pole and light, is that right?
No, like,
Or the water and light does?
We'll pay for the installation.
Huh?
We'll pay for the wire installation and underground to the pole, and then Water and Light puts the pole up. They put the light fixture up, and then the city pays.
$30 a month.
Yep, they pay a fee, a monthly fee then thereafter.
The $1,700 that we have to pay, we got that in the budget?
No, there isn't anything specifically line item for a new street light.
Okay.
But that's not an issue. I mean, we've got money in the
There
budget
is the
for
money.
street lighting. We could, you know, for a needed street light, we can make it work.
And it's a needed streetlight. I mean, I don't, if it is, I don't see that this being an issue, $1,700. We spend or I don't vote for them, but other members of the council vote for other things that are very spendy. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if there's no against it, if it's just that the initial cost for the wiring, I don't have a problem with it if it benefits the public. So with that said, I've been making motions here if anybody else wants to.
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the streetlight, second by Rayom. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Question, not to be greedy here, but is it possible that the city could look at changing that sodium light out and put a brighter light on the corner of Park and 12th there? I think it's one of them older sodium.
We could talk to Water and Light about that.
Because right down the road, there's one of the new brighter lights, the next one down to the south. I'm just trying to,
So they do have a replacement program.
perfect,
So,
if it's,
you know, I'd have to see if
Yeah.
that's on their radar screen or not, but.
sounds good. Yeah, I just thought of that, even some more extra lighting in that area. And then this would be more of a spring project, I take it, since you have to.
Yeah,
hurry.
likely after the frost comes out,
Okay,
they'll directional drill the wire underneath the
Perfect.
sidewalk there, so.
sounds good, thank you.
Motion on the floor, second to installation of a street light at Parkwood Drive, or at the cul-de-sac Parkwood Drive. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it 3-0. Go to item number 5, review and consider approval of reconstructing 11th Street between Washington Street and Apricot Street to its existing street width of 36 feet and right-of-way of 60 feet, rather than expanding the street width to 40 feet and right-of-way to 66 feet as identified in the city's official map for a minor collector. Mr. Terry, is that yours, or Mr. Eichstadt, is that yours?
So, the city's official map, we've got defined cross-sections for a certain classification of street. So if it's a local street versus a collector street, and then the road width and right-of-way width varies depending upon the type of street that it is. So the city's official map classifies 11th Street as a collector street, which would be a 40-foot street on a 66-foot right-of-way. In some cases, we've squeezed a 40-foot street in a 60-foot right-of-way, but in this particular instance, the entire neighborhood around there, the traffic patterns, it acts as a local street. So we don't have the width needed to put in a 40-foot street, so, which would be consistent with the city's official map and cross-section requirements. So our recommendation is that we put the street back in at a 36-foot street. It's a 2021 or 2022 construction project, by the way, but we'd recommend, because of the residential type characteristics, put it back in at a 36-foot street and forego the upsizing to match the official map for this particular location.
What are some potential drawbacks of losing that right-of-way that we could potentially have that is, in theory, out there in sidewalk area?
Sure. So it's mainly lost in the travel lanes, the sidewalk terrace. You go from 6 foot to a 9-foot terrace if you were to purchase additional real estate and widen everything out. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Kind of not really. I guess if it's listed as a 66-foot street, there's 3 extra feet on either side, obviously, than if it was a 60-foot street.
Yep.
Is there any benefit or loss of losing that 3 feet that for any, maybe a utility, maybe like running electrical or running gas, natural gas, or something like that? Or can you just, I mean, you can pull an easement anyway, right? Or we can pull an easement as a city if a utility needs to go there. I guess I just don't want to lose something that we're never going to get back, even if we only rebuild the street to 36 what it's existing, you know what I mean?
And so that is an option. We could go, be consistent with the city's official map, and we could go down that path, secure the additional real estate, widen the road out. It's not based on its current layout, current traffic, we don't foresee it in the near future at all. But,
I'm sorry, not to cut you off, Joe, but if we keep it at 36, obviously it doesn't match what's kind of listed, but keeping it and still keeping that extra right of way, the 3 feet. I mean, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
yeah, if we don't widen out the street, I don't foresee that there's any real drawbacks to not having that additional room for utilities or for other reasons. You know, if it stays at a 36-foot street, there's ample room for everything else that needs to be there, snow storage and all those things. But
I was just going to mention that if we decide as a committee to keep this as a 36-foot street, I think it'd be appropriate the next time we review our official map would be to reclassify that street as local and you know, to update the official map accordingly, because it is it certainly isn't used as a collector, and with the houses and things that are there, it doesn't fit, right?
yeah, for the most part, it doesn't fit. I mean, it does carry some through traffic, because from First Street over to Baker, that's the street you'd want to take, but it just doesn't get much traffic.
Do you guys, either of you guys have any questions, concerns?
No.
I mean,
Not really.
on the few years that I've been on city council, I've never had a concern about something related remotely to this. So I don't, if we reduce it from 66 to 60, it's, we make our official map work better, whatever. So,
I think we should keep the right of way and leave the street the same, right, from Baker or right down the hill.
well, because it's only 11th Street, right?
Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
Tucker Bush.
Yep. Just a short distance.
Yeah, so keeping 36 feet, but then, I mean, the right of way,
Keep the right of way.
keep it at 66? What's your feeling, Mr. Rayo? I don't care either way, whatever, I mean.
We might never use it, but if we do, it's a,
True, but I mean, in terms of if, for property acquisition, I mean, if we needed to do it, we could put in a utility easement for it, so I mean, I don't see it one way or the other on that. Like I said, I don't care.
Is the rest of the street classified as that, Joe?
Yeah.
Either Joe, I guess.
Yeah, so 11th Street is all a classified street from Baker all the way up to First Street.
Right away though in that?
So it's on our official map classified as a collector street, but everything in there is a 36-foot street on a 60-foot right of way. So it's built like a local street.
Mhm. So this would go along
Keep it
with
that
what
way, right.
the rest of the street is.
Yep, it would keep it
Going south.
as is. Yep.
So what you're saying is that, because we got to keep in mind that this is not a straight street. It's, I'm thinking, is it by Bloody 07 there? Or, no, because that would be,
It's behind the old Irving School. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
What that is?
Probably
Oh, I mean, where it goes down there. Where-
traffic there, that's
Correct.
cool.
yeah, no one, I mean, it's a nice cut through if you're going down toward Buren on the river there. But I mean, because 11 turns into Plover Street right there. And then from, at that jog, or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, veering left, if you were northbound, 11th Street turns into Plover Street. But, so what you're saying too, though, is that Plover Street is also a 60-foot street?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain of that. I can double check though.
It's also classified though.
Yep.
What does that mean?
So if someone, for example, so it's supposed to be a 66. So if someone were gonna resurvey their lot, or make a change, in order for the city to accept that change, they'd have to give that to the city. If the city were gonna build a construction project, then the city would purchase said right away. So it's,
Pull Cleveland Street is a 36 on a 60-foot right-of-way.
On a 60-foot right-of-way, Plover is, and what you're saying, everything south of Washington Street, 11th Street, going that way, basically the city limits, 2 mile, where does 11th Street hit?
So 11th up to Baker is a collector street. So 11th south to Baker is collector, and then it jogs over on the 12th, and then 12th Street runs the rest of the city all the way down.
Okay, yeah, because 12th runs all the way down, 11th is on.
Is a local, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't care either way. I mean, long story short, I guess, what are we prohibiting if we're making the change to it? What is the, I guess, benefit?
So the benefit is that we can match what's out there today, and we don't have to buy a bunch of real estate and widen out 2 blocks, which would then kind of block us in for sure on other replacements on this north of Baker Street area, when I don't believe that it's necessary.
I would move to go along with the recommendation to
Design the
go
street
with
as a
36 feet
yeah.
with a 60-foot right-of-way.
Yeah, I guess if it's a case that in the future, if we were to have to purchase real estate to do it, that's going to be a cost to the taxpayers. So, I mean, if it makes it in line with what it is, I don't have a problem with it.
We're not gonna construct anything now, are we? On there?
In 2021 or 22, so in a year or two, it's proposed to be, 2 blocks are proposed to be rebuilt from Washington to Apricot.
So we need to start working on the design.
Would that include sidewalk?
There is sidewalk that's currently there, so we would be
I can't
looking to
remember if there
replace
is
it.
all the way or not. Okay. Just so there'd be room left for that.
Yep.
So there'd be room for snow storage and that with the sidewalk in it.
Yep.
So, okay.
I guess I'll second that motion. You had a motion on the floor, right, Tom? I'll second that motion. So there's a motion on the floor, a second to approve the reconstructing of 11th Street between Washington Street and Apricot Street to its existing street width, 36 feet, and the right-of-way of 60 feet, rather than expanding the street to 40 feet and the right-of-way to 66 feet as identified in the city's official map for a minor collector. Is there any further discussion?
It'd be the same all the way down then.
Correct. It'll make everything the same then. So, motion on the floor, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, ayes have it, 3-0. We'll move on to item number 6. Review and consider amending a preliminary resolution, permanent street resurfacing, concrete curb and gutter, defective concrete sidewalk, concrete driveway approaches, and sanitary and water services for 2nd Avenue South from West Riverview Expressway to 10th Avenue South to include parcel 34-02944.
So usually when we do the preliminary resolutions, we try to anticipate all of the parcels that are needed to be within that assessment district. This particular parcel, and I've got a map of it that shows which one in particular we're talking about here. That through the design of the underground utilities, we've had to move the reconstruction limits significantly north of the intersection, by about 40 or 50 feet. And so now we get into replacing water main in front of this parcel. We also come across their water service, and I'm not sure if there's sanitary laterals right there, but it's in the vicinity. So reconstructing the street over more than half of their property, their frontage. And so we thought it'd be best to bring it back to committee and request that that parcel get added to that preliminary resolution.
You're replacing just the service, or you're replacing the water main too?
Replacing the water main primarily, and then
You're not replacing the sanitary?
not directly in front of their property, no.
Okay.
But you've got the water main, that service, the street, curb and gutter, and sidewalk.
Okay. Why were we replacing it? Is somebody having problems out there?
It's part of a existing project. So the construction limits initially were going to be real close, and during design and tying in the water main, we've got to move those construction limits on the side street back quite a ways. And so more than half of this lot is going to have a new street with new curb, new utilities. And so the normal protocol then is they get assessed. But it was during the design, so we've had the preliminary resolution. We didn't include this lot in the preliminary resolution because we didn't anticipate having to go that far back.
But what's gonna be rebuilt?
The whole street there.
Second Street from where? The expressway where?
The expressway up to 10th Avenue.
To 10th.
10th Avenue.
Yep.
Did you have a map in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the map. But the only thing that's wrong there is, you've gotta put in a water service or a water lead,
Water main,
and water main.
right.
And the water main is bad,
Yep.
leaking.
I don't know that it's old, it's gonna leak. It's part of the reconstruction request by the water utility.
It's a request by the water utility? And when's it supposed to be completed?
This project is scheduled for this summer.
This summer?
Yes.
It's gonna be an expensive proposition.
It's budgeted.
You know,
It's-
yeah. Up till where we're talking
Right,
tonight,
right, so
that's budget.
right, because we're just extending the project another 40
feet.
40 feet or so. We're involving now a property that we hadn't planned on involving. And so we're making the request. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what's the total cost of the project? And everything is gonna be billed back to the property owner, right?
Based on the special assessment.
Sidewalk,
policy.
curb and gutter, street surfacing. What about the water main? Is that gonna be
No,
billed back
no.
to the property owner?
No,
Water service?
no.
Water-
Well,
water
Are
service.
you gonna replace the storm sewer or sanitary sewers?
The service lateral, I
Yeah.
don't think the main doesn't get replaced there, does it?
No, I don't think so, no.
You're not replacing that?
Not the main,
Not the main?
just the
But
service.
all sanitary services are gonna
Right.
replace?
So a property owner, the rest of the property owners have to pay for their service, their private service.
Yeah,
The rest of the property owners on the project also pay their portion of the street, 20% of the overall street costs. You've got, everyone else is covering their assessments for the curb and gutter, sidewalk assessments. So by extending this project a little bit, we're involving one additional property.
yeah.
That property was not included on the preliminary resolution. So they haven't been notified yet. And so when we've discovered that we need to extend the project, we're requesting, the preliminary resolution is a council prerogative, right? Everybody else has been notified. By extending this project, we have a responsibility to notify the property owner if we're going to assess them. And we're extending the project, so we would need to notify that property owner. And that's the request.
Okay. Do you have the overall cost of the project?
I can find it here in a minute.
Okay. See what you can do, I'll see what I can do at the same time.
$363,000.
How much?
363,000.
I can't go along with it. If you guys wanna make a motion, you can make a motion. But I don't wanna be at City Hall when these guys come, or these property owners come down here with broomsticks and bayonets.
I think maybe we're not, maybe we've got to clarify a little bit, Bud. So we've got a project that's already budgeted. The property owners have already been notified, right? The city intends to assess for projects as it normally does.
Do they know how much the assessment's gonna be?
They have an estimate.
They have an estimate.
They have a estimate.
Yes, they have the estimate. We're extending the project another 40 feet.
Yeah, I know.
And that
I know.
involves a single property owner. In order to treat that property owner like all the other property owners, we need to make an amendment to that preliminary resolution.
Yeah,
If we,
that I realize.
okay,
But I was over there 3 times today. The sidewalk on the east side of the street is in pretty good shape. The sidewalk on the west side of the street, 950 and 960, is in bad shape, should be replaced. The street from West Expressway up to the Genius
Yep.
house, I found one hole about that big, and that could be a water shut-off. Otherwise, the street's in good shape. If you replace the sidewalk, you got trees that big that are gonna have to come down. As far as I can remember, there's 2 houses on the west side of Second Avenue where their sanitary leads are hooked together.
yes. And that's been a big problem.
And
This last year was a big problem. That one house was backed up for months.
and it's laid in rock,
Yeah,
both leads.
yep.
If you go in there and you separate, put new water main in, and you put new laterals in, you're gonna be blasting rock.
We're gonna be putting a lot of stuff in the same trench.
Yeah. But you're still gonna be blasting rock,
We
because
may.
leads are laying in rock.
And we've had, I don't know how many water main breaks on that stretch in the last couple of years.
If you wanna make a motion to go ahead, fine, but I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that, no construction take place until such time as the actual cost of the project, which should be based on last year's costs, be relayed to the property owner so they know exactly, penny for penny, how much that project's gonna cost them. Because I don't think those people down there can afford it. So, that's where we're at.
I'll make a motion to amend our preliminary resolution for permanent street surfacing, concrete curb and gutter, effective concrete sidewalk, concrete driveway approaches, and sanitary and water services for 2nd Avenue South from the West Riverview Expressway to 10th Avenue South, and that's to include then parcel number, which is 34-02944. That's the info I have in front of me anyway, so hopefully that's the right number for that parcel.
Motion on the floor. I think what I can do is actually offer a double for you. What we can do is address your concern. We'll take it up next meeting. I'll put it on the agenda as far as now we're gonna make a decision how we wanna move forward with special assessments. And that was one thing that we had talked about last month in terms of asking the engineering department to come up with some different ideas.
Where are we at that?
So
You were gonna come up with a...
yeah, so we have just finished, we just didn't have it in time for this meeting. We've just finished a scope that we want the committee to review to make sure that what we're going to study is what you want us to study. So we have that developed, and we're ready to bring that forward to the committee.
So then,
Sooner the better.
well, with that, I'll put that on the next committee agenda, and then we'll either entertain or we'll make a decision next time. But I think with this particular motion, or with this particular item, is that it's
Just extension.
it's the extension, so that some people that are getting services that are paying for it, and other people that are getting benefits that may not be paying for it, now they're gonna share in that equity with it.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's people that can't afford it, just can't afford it.
And even voting this down wouldn't necessarily mean that other people aren't gonna get that. And in fact, actually, the cost would be even more so with the people that have already been part of the project, because it's a cumulative total, so now this adds one more, and then it reduces that overall cost for that. So that's where, I mean, if we vote this down, it isn't gonna take special assessments away and from anybody on that
You
project.
guys, go ahead.
This is my, I'll second that motion. So we've got a motion on the floor, a second to, I'll read it back. Motion on the floor, second to amend the preliminary resolution, permanent street surfacing, curb and gutter, defective concrete sidewalk, concrete driveway approaches, and sanitary and water services for 2nd Avenue South from West Riverview Expressway to 10th Avenue South to include parcel 34-02944. Did you have any comments, Jim? I thought I seen your hand up.
Yeah, when is this project gonna start and when would it be completed? I'm trying to get my driveway replaced, and I don't think it would be in my best interest to have that work done while this is going on, right? And I'm trying to get contractors, and it's kind of a problem.
Do you need to know that date tonight? Is that something where the engineering department can give you a call?
If they have, it would be nice.
Sure.
We just have a general timeline at this point. So our first project will be 10th Street, and we'll jump back to Chase Street, and then likely try to pick up 2nd Avenue prior, try to get it done before school starts again. That's kind of the preliminary.
But we're not
plan
going
at this
back to
point.
Jim's driveway.
Yeah, we're not going that far.
Yeah, we're not going back to your driveway, so you
Okay,
can do it
but
whenever you want.
What about the trucks and stuff that might be traversing the construction or road?
No trucks should be on 10th Avenue, Jim. I mean, they'll beat that down. They'll be on 2nd Avenue coming from the expressway. That's a truck route.
Well, you'll be around the radius, right?
Right.
Yeah, but his driveway's on the north end of his property. We won't be that far north.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, motion on the floor, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried 2-1 with Alderperson Brzezinski voting in the negative. We will go on to item number 7, we're already there. Review and consider proposed modifications in Chapter 27 parking, Chapter 340 traffic of the municipal code as it relates to the 2019 reconstruction of East Grand Avenue. Anybody have any concerns? Did you go through the list of the changes of the?
Yeah, it's all because of the construction rate.
Yep, some general housekeeping items that we noticed in there.
There's too much we can do about it now.
It's there.
So with that being said, does anybody have any concerns opposed to it? I'll make a motion to approve proposed modifications in Chapter 27 parking, Chapter 340 traffic of the municipal code as it relates to the 2019 reconstruction of East Grand Avenue. All those in favor say aye. Oh, wait, that was a motion. Who seconded?
I'll second.
Mr. Rayom seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Item number 8, Director of Public Works report.
Sure, so, again, I apologize for not getting this out in advance. We're working a little bit short over in our
Oh,
street
come
division.
on.
Well, we've got
I know,
a leader
I know.
that's gone, so So we've got some staff pulling double duty. So the report's attached, we'll get this included on the website. I do want to just call out a couple items. At the airport, there has been work by the manager with city staff, city council, commissions. They came to the last committee meeting. Airport engineers and contractors regarding the utility provision for the hangar. I do anticipate seeing something coming from the airport commission to the city on that very soon. Storm damage work continued with some camera repairs at Robinson Park. Our Centralia sign repair is nearing completion and some remaining tree and stump work done. Our skating rink and lowboard hockey ponds are open and being maintained. Our 2020 projects, I just wanted to reiterate where we are in the design process of that. The rail spur project is 30% complete. We're working on a T-grant application right now to assist in the funding for that project. Our 2nd Avenue South project is 80% design complete. The 10th Street South project design is 98% complete. There's just a few minor things to finish up, and we are preparing for an open house with residents on that project in February. The Washington Street project, the design is 99% complete. We did have an open house on that project here in December. The 2nd Avenue at Seneca Road DOT safety project is scheduled to let in March with an approximate start date June 8th.
What's that project involve?
So that is a project that is being funded except for some engineering costs by the state of Wisconsin as a intersection safety improvement project. The issue is that the eastbound traffic on Seneca Road, and there's quite a bit of it, the highway volumes kind of split and combine there at Seneca Road and 2nd Avenue South. The eastbound traffic making a left turn to head north into Wisconsin Rapids has some visibility problems as southbound traffic in the through lane is traversing that curve. You can't see through if there's another vehicle. So I should say the right turn traffic, because of the curve, covers sometimes some of the through traffic. And so a car goes to pull out, and there's a number of reported complaints, near misses. There's been a few accidents. So what the DOT is proposing is moving the right turn lane further west.
Oh,
So it separates it, and you get more visibility to the north.
that'll probably be funded by the state then?
It is.
Yeah.
The city does have some responsibility. It's a partnership project. The city's got to pay for some of the engineering costs, and there may be some contaminated material costs that the city will be stuck with. The general design costs, we made an agreement with the Village of Port Edwards. They're going to cover half of that, but the city ends up covering any of the contamination because it would be in the city.
Just for clarification, what was the estimated cost? I want to say less than 10 grand, right? Like
The
8 grand.
initial design estimate was about 10,000, but the revised agreement with the DOT is, I think, around 35,000 because of that contaminated material. We've got work remaining on Chase Street, including 20th to 21st Avenue. We've got some work remaining that from last year in the Centralia parking lot, including the final layer of asphalt, paving the entrance from Hale Street, removing the old entrance to 3rd Street, restriping and pavement markings, and the main entrance concrete work. We did open bids for the 2020 concrete contract today, and because we did it today, we didn't want to bring it to the committee meeting tonight and surprise anyone, but it is in the city's interest, just try to review those as soon as we can. And so if there is an opportunity for a special meeting, we'd like to address that at a special meeting. We have to wait until March, we can, but those contractors are trying to fill their schedules, and so the sooner that we can notify them, the better. We had more proposals. Would we have 5?
6.
6 proposals last year. The last several years, we've had 1. And so the engineering department has really gone the extra mile in promoting the project, inviting contractors to submit, calling on them during the submittal process, reminding them of deadlines, and then we've backed up. A lot of times we're not really.
Can you tell us who bid or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, the apparent low bidder was Chippewa Concrete.
Who?
Chippewa Concrete. We had Treeweiler, Pember, Summers, SDL and Becker, Johnson Concrete, and Chippewa. They were all bidders.
Did we hold any money back from the curb and gutter contractor that we had last year?
Yeah, that contract's still open.
Huh?
That contract is still open.
Still open?
Yeah.
Okay. They did a pretty good job on sidewalk, that I looked at anyway, but they didn't do a very good job on curb and gutter. Some of the expansion joints, they're that deep, some of them are that deep, some of them are at an angle, some of them are at an angle that way. I think they brushed the curb with a steel brush instead of a broom, and they didn't use their edger. Sidewalk looked pretty good.
For this last month, we had, for garbage collection, we were down 57 tons from the same month last year, and recycling is up 6.8 tons. We did plow 4 snow events with 3 inches or more of snow, and we plowed and salted 5 snow events of 3 inches or less, using 607 tons of salt and 310 cubic yards of salt sand mix. I want to congratulate or thank, I guess, our mechanic staff and some of our employees who were assisting them in the rebuild of our trommel screen plant that's used to screen black dirt and compost. They replaced multiple rollers, scrapers, hydraulic hose, a section of belts, and that belt started to fold, and so it took a lot of work to get that fold out. But that unit is several $100,000 to replace, and so you know, that the maintenance work that our staff has done is going to extend the life of that unit for a long time. There's also some welding work. Some of the metal was starting to wear, and some welding and fabricating work to rebuild some of that. So, I mean, it's a very, very expensive piece of equipment, but also absolutely necessary. So, the collection system staff assisted plant operations staff in cleaning the newly constructed septage receiving grit removal system at the plant. This was an in-house initiative and design with assistance from the city's engineering department. The system seems to be catching and removing excess grit from hauled-in waste, which protects the downstream equipment and processes. Some other activities, we continue to spend a significant amount of time on the FEMA documentation, reporting, and administration. That should be wrapping up in the next month, I would think. We continue to oversee the aquatic construction project. That takes quite a bit of my time. And we've been working with staff and meeting with some other municipalities to finalize our aquatic organizational structure for operation and maintenance. There's a lot more information in the report, but that touches on some of the highlights.
Any questions for the Public Works Director? Thank you very much. And I appreciate hearing about that we can do stuff in-house. and this isn't to dig on you guys, but if we could actually hire and refill the positions of the public works crews that have retired or that have left, imagine how much more work we could get done with our own staff. So thank you very much for your report then, Mr. Terry. With that being said, item number 9 is to review the referral list. And when I redid it, I don't think I missed anything, but as we go through, we will add the proposal from Monarch Encouragement on there. And is there anything that I missed on the 2 pages?
I think we have a current referral that we didn't get on the agenda for 18th Avenue.
Correct. And I anticipated that the Finance Committee was going to go through, so that's the reason why I did it.
So we'll catch that on the next.
Yeah, and that's what I'm writing down. I'm quick writing some notes for.
We'll submit it again when we submit our package for next month.
Now, you alluded to a special meeting for the purpose of the concrete. Do you have any recommendations? Because Finance is going to be meeting before the Common Council meeting, and I didn't catch what time.
They actually even talked about maybe the Thursday before, which would be next Thursday, right, Tom? Yeah.
No.
No.
They were, they were discussing after the meeting
Oh,
too,
really?
so I don't know what,
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure.
what day for sure they agreed upon.
When are you having a HR committee meeting?
I just sent the mayor and city attorney if there's any items. If there's not, then we won't have one. But we're also looking at holding a legislative committee meeting next week, hopefully. Because there's some, there's an item that we really need to get taken care of. And there's some pending things, so we're looking at next Tuesday.
Tuesday for HR or?
Or both.
What does legislative look like?
There's a lot of items.
Oh, I'm sorry, what time, as far as
Oh.
scheduling wise?
After HR or 5-ish if it's all by itself.
If it's by itself, 5 o'clock, how long do you guys anticipate that this, I mean, it should be,
I don't think 15, 20 minutes.
so the urgency is getting it on the council agenda so that the contractor who gets it knows, and it's that
Correct.
their bid is awarded probably in a
Yes,
timely
yeah.
fashion.
It's the lowest responsible bid. All these contractors that we open bids for pre-qualified, so it's a pretty routine.
Yeah, we just need a
If
day
you
or
want to do
two
it
here.
5
to
and we
crunch
can do
numbers.
5:15, something like that, or.
15 minutes?
Yeah, I don't think it'll take any more than that.
Yeah, because we have to take the lowest responsible bidder as far as.
So maybe, Joe, if you want to coordinate with the mayor and Sue and figure out, or however you guys want to do it.
I'd almost like to get something scheduled tonight,
Okay.
so that we all know. So next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, Public Works Special Committee meeting. What, is that fine for you guys?
As far as I know. Yep.
If anything, check your schedules. If anything weird happens, let me know, or let Mr. Terry know. Otherwise, 5 o'clock next Tuesday, we'll have a special committee meeting to approve the concrete contractor.
Right.
Okay.
If we can address the 18th Avenue project, it'd be great, because then we can start working on some of the preliminary survey work and, some of that pre-project administration. But I don't think it's critical. We could wait until March,
Yeah.
do you think, if we had to?
I have a feeling there's gonna be, we don't have, if it's only 15 minutes that we're gonna schedule, I don't
Okay.
think we'll have time for it, so. But yeah, I'll create the agenda for concrete contractor. What?
Awarding the bid?
Yeah, wording, but approval of wording bid for, and then, what's left on the agenda?
That's it.
That's it.
Item number 10, motion, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Rayon, second by Mr. Brzezinski to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, 3-0. Meeting adjourned at 8:38 PM.